So you want to launch AI-controlled fighters or drones from your ship with a single button press. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you just how to do that. So to make this straightforward and appeal to what you want to build, I'm going to break this down into 3 segments. The first segment is a PvP-orientated AI design, with the idea that we want to launch these as effectively and as quickly as possible to inflict as much damage on the enemy, and we're not really in any care about them returning back to the carrier, for 2 reasons really. Firstly, that they'll give away the carrier's position, and secondly, usually a lot of the fighters and drones that we launch like this are going to come back extremely damaged, and all we'll be doing anyway is sticking them in our grinder pit. Now, this is where the guide is going to start, so have your ship, have your creation. I'll be prepared to take some notes because this one is going to be a little bit complicated, but at the same time it's really quite straightforward. In the background we have 28 fighters that I've gone through each one of these and plumbed them up. A quick note, this is not my grid, this is one of my community members, Auroran. You can find it up on the workshop without the AI installed. So in the past it would be a dream to have 28 players to use this carrier to its full potential. But now you've got AI, it pretty much makes carriers a viable option. So the first thing that you need to consider when building a carrier or anything for AI is easy access for the AI to get off the deck. If you want a big swarm like this, having loads of individual hangar bays is just going to be extra wiring and plumbing that we'll have a look at later. All we've got going on here is 2 blocks on each of these fighters and timers running along the deck, and I'll explain what they do. But first off, the 2 little blocks that we've got going on here in the AI options, we've got the AI offensive combat and we also have the AI flight, and they are plumbed in, of course, with the directions facing forward. So each one of them has the exact same, each fighter is wired up the same way. Now, running along the deck here, we have a timer system, because if we launched all these fighters at once, we'd have a giant collision, and trust me, I tried launching them all at once. So each one of these timer blocks is set in a 5-second interval. So I'll talk you through the complete system now. As the character up here at the bridge activates his button, so we go over to here, we activate this button and the system starts to tick away. Now, to get this to work perfectly and smoothly, the AI needs time to start. So the AI combat block has now been activated on the first wave. The timer block is now ticking on the second deck level. When that activates, it disconnects, activating the secondary timer on the AI fighter, and that AI fighter turns the engines on, and then it goes to engage. Now, the reason that we can't turn the engines on in one simple button press from the cockpit, and you can feel that lag that's happening, that's as the AI is activating and disconnecting, but we can't turn the AI on all at the start or it'll try and move the carrier from this starting position. So far we've had 3 waves on their way. These are set to hit and run. Hit and run is the best way of setting these up, in my opinion. If you have the loiter or orbit options, they sometimes loiter around the carrier and prevent other fighters from launching, but you'll still get a few fighters that get stuck there every now and then. So that's 4 waves away, and we are counting down onto the next little wave. It took a lot of time working out how much time to give each wave, so we've got about 5 seconds going on there, and they are attacking and engaging. But you can see as they fly in their little formations and they're going off in 1s and 2s, they come and hit that target in 1 or 2 configurations as well. That makes it even more deadly. So I'm going to try to work through the rest of the ship. So it's just a timer now. All that timer is doing as it's ticking these options is unlocking that landing gear, then activating that timer block on top. That turns the engines on and that sends it on its way. I'll go a little bit deeper into the AI options that I've set in a moment's time. But let's have a look at what sort of damage that we've got doing. So as we come over here, you can see with that hit and run tactic, they're coming in their little formations of 2s and 3s, dealing their damage, breaking off at shallow angle, that I think is far cooler than a steep 90-degree. And because of that, multiple waves coming in from different angles, we're getting a lot of damage on that target. Let's have a look how we're doing with launching. So we've got 1 or 2 that are a little bit stale in the deck. Yeah, we've got a few here at the back, and I have found out that if we just lower our launch ship down a little bit, so if we just get on the thrust, bring our carrier down ever so slightly, let's grab that cockpit, the AI will wake up. The AI was a little bit confused because it was too close to our grid. So there you go, AI is waking up, maneuvering around, and these last few grids should be able to launch now. There we go. So that's the full system in operation. Let's go and break down one drone. Starting with the fighter, we're going to just have a look at what blocks that we've got here. Like I said, we've got the offensive, we've got the standard basic AI flight, And if we jump ourselves in here, you'll see a whole variety of times. This is going to be a little bit scary. But the only ones that is important is this timer block F6 that I've done here. Now, the reason that they're called F6, F5, this is just part of my naming system. So I know each row. So we've got row 1 right at the start, row 2, so fighter F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, F6. So this is going to be launching on the fighter F6 row. So on that F6 action, all we've got is main engines to be kicked on. So that's all this timer block is going to be doing here, is kicking the engines on. I tried it with an event controller, but it didn't detect when it had disconnected. It was being a bit awkward, so I had to force it with a timer block. There's lots of ways of doing the same things you'll find out with these AI blocks. Let's have a quick look at our AI blocks. So our AI flight, I've set it up like this, so collision avoidance is on, and the reason we need that on for the combat stage is when there's loads of fighters in close proximity to each other, we need them to avoid each other or they'll just ram into each other and it's a waste of time. Precision mode is off, we don't need that. Meters a second is 100, there's no point of having a slow fighter. If you have a slow fighter, it'll get shot down by a turret. Turn align to P gravity off, so it doesn't have to use these angles. Then if we go down to AI offensive, we'll see a white one. That white AI offensive is the one that's on the ship, and this is how we've considered this. Closest target, and we've lowered the target search intervals down to 5 from 30 seconds, and that is just to get it snapping to target, because sometimes it gets a little bit confused with the grid being so close to the carrier, and that 5-second interval just refreshes it. Now, something that is annoying, and it means you have to go through each one of these blocks individually. Keen, if you see this, please fix this. So if I shift click and click a load, you'll notice that the attack pattern disappears, so we can't change the attack pattern on a load of these AI offensive blocks at once, so we have to go through each one and adjust it one by one. That's a little bit frustrated with a lot, but if you're just doing one, no big worry. And then more importantly, make sure you add the weapons. In this case, we can just add all the weapons, and the weapons that it can't use that are on other fighters that are docked up, it won't matter, it'll just discount them. So don't panic about doing that. So that's the basic configuration of one of these fighters. So now that all being said, I want to hold your hand through setting up one of these fighters. So first off, we need ourselves a timer block. That timer block is going to be responsible for our single button press that's going to trigger this one to launch. So to make it launch, we'll hit a button that activates both the AI blocks. So we're going to have to fit them AI blocks to the ship here. So we're going to need an AI flight, and we're going to need an AI offensive. So let's go and find that out. AI offensive is non-directional, but the AI flight is directional, so we need to make sure it's facing the right way, like so. We also need a timer aboard this ship, and the reason for this timer is because when we disconnect it, we want the engines to activate up in the air, because all the engines on this grid are named the same thing for convenience, so we don't have to go and manually name and group up each engine of each fighter. So we want that activating in a second stage. So we're going to stick that timer there. That'll disconnect the connector. So let's just clear out that one for ease, and we'll set this one up. So we'll head back to the helm and we'll work our way through it. So first off, we need ourselves our main timer block. So this is the timer block that's behind us, or it should be the timer block that's behind us. Timer block 15. So let's just double check. We're going to set up actions, and we're going to get the AI to be enabled and combat AI to be enabled. Like so. We've not adjusted any of the settings on these. I showed you the settings that I adjusted them to earlier. Alright, and then the final option that we want to do is activate the next timer block. I believe it is timer block 16. So that will then trigger that one, and it'll trigger it now. And then we need to go to the other timer block setting, so timer block 4. So timer block 4 is the one that's aboard the ship, and we want a 1-second delay, and we want to set this up so it'll activate the engine group when it's in the air. So we'll toggle that on the HUD. Timer block 16 is the one on the deck next to the ship, and we want a, let's just put a 1-second delay in. I was putting 5 seconds for the launches before, but it is the first one. And then that one is the connector. So we need to figure out which is the connector, because if I go connector like this, they'll be all here and they're all just randomly named. So a quick way of doing this is flying back to the front of the ship, like so. And then we use our character, and we get the little connector up like that, goes to the control panel, and the connector that we're looking for should be highlighted on the panel, so it's 31. So let's just put an F1 in front of that for fighter 1 connector. Okay, then going back to the control panel. So there's a lot of back and forth. It's not easy to set these up. It takes a lot of time. Okay, so once that's done, we're going to have to go back to our timer block 16. Alright, we set up the actions. We find the F1. There we go. And we're just going to simply turn that off. So let's check our system to make sure it worked. So if we activated timer 1, it would activate the eye on our blocks, great, and then it would activate 16. So 16 would then activate, disconnect the timer, but we forgot something, didn't we? We need this number 16 to activate timer block 4 above the ship. So we can start that one up. So once that's activated that, it'll activate the one on the ship and we are sorted. So there's one last thing to do, and that is add it to the menu. So let's start with timer block 15 and we're just going to press start on that. Make sure we haven't set the timer block to a ridiculous number. So hopefully we've set everything up right now. And with that we're going to hit F1 and we should see the AI take over, disconnect, activate that timer block. Yes, it's done it. Activate the AI. The AI should find itself a target. Remember, it is not in the same configuration as the previous one, it's just in circle and orbit. But yeah, it's located the AI and it's leaving the docking area on the carrier. So there we have it. Your carriers in Space Engineers are now effective. You can launch an effective wave of fighters or drones and annihilate a target. It's super cool. Now in future videos, I want to cover a fighter or a drone that can leave a hangar by itself, go to attack by itself, and then return if it's low on ammunition or battery. So if you'd like that idea, let me know in the comment section below. And if you've got any other ideas or different methods of doing the same thing that you saw here today, let the community know. Comment it down in the comment section and get stuck in. Anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.